I do an introduction to immersive marketing, which is really a quick way of saying VR, AR, MR, XR, all the R's right there. I have about, let's go. Who is the person and why should I look up from my phone? Which I didn't know that you were going to do that intro. So this is what I assume, that generally when I go to presentations, I'm like, oh, who's this? So I'm going to try to do that a little bit. So I'm Sam Wolfe. When I had before, in this little piece over there, I had, 20 years in television, where I went to school, blah, blah, blah. What somebody described me as recently is, she literally wrote the book, which I did. I ended up co-authoring a book called Marketing New Realities, which was the first book about marketing, branding, communications, with virtual reality and augmented reality. So that's why you look up from your phone, besides being scared of you. So what have I been doing? It's a big sort of collage. I'm sure you can make a prettier one than I did. Talking a little bit about the other things that I've done. I have a Facebook group called VR/AR/MR Marketing Ready. Really boring, but very useful, about coming up on 1,700 people in it. I bombard people with information related to it, related to the topic. There's a book with my co-author, Kathy Hackle. I've talked at Augmented World Expo, at South by Southwest, at meetups, all that, really just sort of laser focused on this topic. So why am I here? Really for me, I feel like the XR industry as a whole needs your help. And really the industry focuses so much on the product itself, like the technology, as absolutely they should, and even pushing the programming within it, again, as they should. But what they're not focusing on as much as I think that they should is the advertising and marketing and communications and the consumer experience. And so I really, that's my goal, that's my sort of purpose within the industry. So 3 things that we're going to talk about. One, what is VR, AR, MR, XR? What are the sort of best-in-class ads that are out there now? Why should you care? Again, that's what I seem to wonder whenever I see somebody talk, is like, why am I even here? And what you can do. So what is VR, AR, MR, XR? So virtual reality, which I think a lot of you already have tried, is it basically creates a virtual world where you have agency. So there's sometimes a little bit of confusion between what is 360 video and what is VR. 360 video is almost like if you put a television on your head that's sort of around your head, that's really 360 video. VR is when you actually have agency and ability to move. There's a bunch of different ways that you can experience VR. One is through Google Cardboard, which I don't even know if they're necessarily even around anymore, but that was sort of the introduction to what 360 immersive video could be like. There's the Oculus Go and Samsung Gear, which is a slightly more expensive, slightly better experience than the passive the sort of passive 360 video. So now you can click and go somewhere, and then you get up into a much more, I should use this chair if it's here, much more dynamic 6 degrees of freedom experience at the highest end. This is with the Vive. So there's 3 degrees of freedom and 6 degrees of freedom. I know for me, when I started to learn about all of this, those sort of terms just turn me off a little bit, and they're really not that complicated. And then if you learn them, then you start sounding really smart within the industry. So I'm going to help you sound smart. 360 video is really 3 degrees of freedom. So again, that's like the TV set around your head, so you can look around, back, behind you, around you. But if you went forward just like a television, it would go forward with you. If you're looking at something, it would keep on going. Whereas when it comes to 6 degrees of freedom, you can move around, right? So there is this sort of odd design that they use to explain it, but really you can move left, right, up, down. If this table was in 360 video, it would move with me if it was in 3 degrees of freedom, but if I were in 6 degrees of freedom, it would stay where it is. And what that does, it gives you a real sense of agency and a real sense of presence that you're there. One of the other things that a lot of people do when they talk about VR is they're like, it's so new. It's so new. And the people who've been in it for a long time get very frustrated because it's not really that new. It's just that the technology is really taking off now. So it's been around for over 20 years, and there's certain people that even I know that will tell you each of those 20 years in detail. But basically, know that if you talk about it, to know that there is a history. This is what I think really, from a VR, makes it stand out versus other medium, is that sense of presence and agency. So it reminds you a little bit about what would happen if you're going to do an experiential marketing campaign, that you have to figure out sort of what is going to happen, how are you going to feel, what is it going to feel like when you go through it. If you do a VR experience, you have to think of what it feels like for the person who's going through it in a way that you wouldn't necessarily if you're going to do a print ad or an email campaign or a social media campaign. You have to understand and you have to do a creative brief that includes the feeling, which I think is to me really sort of a fun thing to think about, and not necessarily something that's always on top priority, at least when I've done briefs outside of that. And this is from Black Mirror. If you want to get into the industry, there are definitely a lot of there's a lot of examples out there of what probably, it's almost like it really is Black Mirror, everything's very, very dark and dim and horrible futures. There's really not something that's positive and lighthearted when it comes to VR, for sure. In the book, I actually included a whole section of must-view VR and AR things out there, and then I put all my really dorky media quotes throughout too, from Matrix and things like that. So one thing that I did here that I don't normally do when I talk about VR and AR is I included a lot of ads. These are really what I would consider the best-in-class ads that are out there. What I'm trying, I hope, I don't know if I'm going to do great at articulating it for you, but sort of after these ads, there's like, these are great, and then they're just really bad. I go around a trade show in VR, and somebody said to me, it's just a sea of bad branding, and it really is. And so that's why I'm so excited for tomorrow to see those of you that did the assignment, what you came up with, because I really do want the branding and the messaging and the creative to improve, because I think that these are just amazing technologies. So this is, I think it's 4 VR ads in a row, and then I'll go in a little bit in AR, a little bit in MR. I am sort of, I have a passionate love affair with VR, but I'm in a committed relationship with AR and MR. So you have to excuse a bit of the bias there. So this is from Oculus Quest. Oculus is one of the biggest companies within this space. And this ad, they had, I think it was last week at their last week or the week before at OC5, which is their big trade show where they were launching this product. So let me...
Whoa. There's a cherry down there. Nice job, nice job. Nice. Cut up, cut up.
Yeah, there you go.
Whoa. Whoa.
Whoa.
Forward, down, forward, wide.
Whoa. Whoa.
Okay, I'm back, everybody. Sit together, all right?
So I love that ad, and for me, it was sort of the first time that the industry created something that was about the user experience. So many of the things I put in the creative brief for the assignment, like please don't have that like up the nose shot, which I mean half the ads out there do, or reach off into the world of who knows what. It really, those images, that stock imagery doesn't really sell what VR is all about. That starts to, which gets me excited. One of my favorite content creators in the space is Baobab Studios, and I really think one of the opportunities for the industry is to start selling some of the content like movies or like TV shows. I have about 20 years in television, and I'm a passionate movie lover. And so I was excited to see that they had, that their trailer looked like a trailer. And this is, I think it's a couple years old, but it's fun, I think. So that, I mean, you wouldn't probably know the difference between that and if you're going to watch an animated movie. What's really fun about that particular experience, which I recommend, is you are a robot in that experience. So when you move your arms, it looks like robot arms. You can throw and play with this sort of dog-like thing. And so although it's fun and you're like, oh, I'd like to see that movie, it doesn't quite sell you on the fact that it's a VR experience and something just entirely with a new dimension, but I still like it. Tilt brush, you probably have tried that, but I just thought if you haven't yet, this is sort of a great, something really fun to play with in VR for creators in particular, and I liked their ad. So I like that this was a little bit of a show, don't tell kind of ad that, again, does a pretty good job. Again, these are best in class after that huge drop off. And this is one of my favorite companies for location-based VR. VR is sort of making inroads by creating virtual arcades. And the Void is probably, it's like if you could have the they're like the highest end experience, and one of the things that they have in a few different locations is a partnership with Star Wars, and this is the trailer they have for that experience.
This is Mon Mothma. I have an assignment for you. The rebellion needs you, and we don't have much time. You must work together. You must not fail. In disguise, your team's mission is to recover Imperial intelligence critical to our survival.
You're with me. The rest of you, get on that skiff. Do your best to act Imperial.
Looks like you'll have to fight your way out.
What is that?
This could be a threat to our entire existence.
So on to AR. These are two of my kids. So obviously Snapchat is one very sort of simple example of augmented reality. It really is taking the world that you see and overlaying graphics on top of it. There are a few different ways that AR has platformed so far. Your phone is really the primary platform. There are also what they call HMDs, talk about yet we needed more acronyms, head-mounted display. And then there's also a move into projection AR as well. AR works in really, it's cameras, mapping, depth sensors, it's trying to sort of see where your world is. There's a lot of different companies that are trying to figure out how to do that, and then you sort of graphic overlay on top of it. People have just started to really play with this. I went to one talk recently where Google was like, stop creating things that are just in the screen of your phone. So instead of creating a little guy that you can see in your phone, start thinking of it as, you know, the toe of a big giant, so that you have to sort of look around and it becomes more immersive. It really, really, there hasn't been that many amazing examples of AR yet, but I think if more creative people like you get involved, I think there will be for sure. Again, another thing, head-mounted displays have been around for a while. So this isn't, AR isn't new, it's just deployed in sort of a new, more efficient way. And there are a couple of ads here that I like. This is for the iPad Pro.
Where is it you wanna go? Where is it you wanna go? Where is it you wanna go?
Okay, it's just a short one. And then Snapchat. I thought this was pretty good too.
Snapchat is a camera. No, not that kind of camera. It's this kind of camera. It's a camera that adds magic to your yard and makes early mornings a little more fun. It brings your best friend with you anywhere you go and comes with your very own mini-me. It's a camera with a map, so you can travel the world on your morning commute. It can lead to adventure and help get you there. It's a camera for talking, because a snap says more than a text. So yeah, Snapchat is a camera, where how you feel matters more than how you look.
Okay, so we're tapping a little bit more into emotion, which is good. Still doesn't feel like Cannes Lion winning creative though. So MR, which not everybody uses, it's the term really means mixed reality. The way I like to think of it right now is sort of it's augmented reality plus agency. You can overlay your world, but now you can play with it a little bit more. Really what's worth noting is that VR, MR, AR, they're all going to come together. They're all going to be sort of one thing. They use the same kind of technology. So thinking of them about them as distinctive technologies is really sort of temporary. But we sort of have to do what we have to do right now. There it is. So there's a couple ads here. Again, you can tell I love Star Wars, but also the community loves Star Wars. This came out for Lenovo. They had I think it was about $200 headset where you could, well, I'll let the ad speak for itself.
Awaken your inner Jedi.
And I don't know if how many of you have heard of Magic Leap? Yeah, it's sort of, so Magic Leap is this just tremendously funded company. Like, I don't even know how many millions or billions of dollars they've gotten. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount of money to create sort of a new kind of headset. They just also had a trade show recently, and so I took my sort of favorite video that they shared there. They now have a developer edition out for a while. Nobody had any idea what the headset looked like, what they were doing, what are they doing with it. And now we're just starting to get a little bit of a sense. And here you go.